Publishing, where we talk about the secrets of Edward Leeds Scanlon's Coral Castle and how it pertains to the biblical narrative, the periodic table of elements, and the zodiac, and other things, but primarily those. All right, so today, what I'm going to bring up is Isaiah chapter 14 and Ezekiel chapter 28. Now notice right away, 14 and 14 is what? 28. This does not surprise me because this happens in the Bible all the time. And if you follow Randy Powell, Marco with a K Rodent, and they talk about vortex-based mathematics, doubling is what it's all about. The pattern, the 1, 2, 4, crossover, you got the 8, 7, 5, and it just keeps going and going. So in the Bible, you see this a lot. Things that are similar have a doubling number involved in this chapter 14 and then chapter 28. It's no surprise to me. But moving on, in Isaiah chapter 14, it's the main meat of it is verses 1 through 24. It's talking about the fall of Lucifer. And I've told you that the 3 pyramids in Egypt represent this. Lucifer went from right in God's favor to left. So he fell from H3 tritium, which sits over fluorine, to the center position, H2 deuterium, Book of Deuteronomy, hello, where's over carbon, and then this is where he met Adam and Eve. This is the point where they met. He fell finally, led a rebellion, and ended up at H1 protium, which is molecular hydrogen known as Molech. This ain't hard, people. And that's over the element lithium. Lithium-ion batteries? Yes, it means stone. And those 3 things are what the Temple of Solomon was made of. Fine, structure, constant. F, fluorine, stone is structure, which is lithium. Constant is C, which is why they use the letter C for the speed of light. It has to do with human consciousness. Don't want to get on that road. But they don't just randomly choose these letters. They think about it long and hard, and they go, yeah, C's a good letter to choose to describe what light actually is. So in Isaiah verses 14, 1 through 24, we see the description where it says, the people in the end are going to look at the big Satan, oh man, the devil horns, man, he's going to get you. And people are going to look down and go, that little squat, I don't want to use a bad word, but that little POS, that's who I was scared of? And I just showed you why. Because people are now waking up to, wait a minute, you're saying that hydrogen is Satan? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. It is. The Great Pyramid, once great, is the great Satan. I can't put it any more plain than that. And the Satanists are trying to convince you that God and Satan are the same thing. Okay, we've already covered it 1,000 times. And this is what I'm going to bring out today is just one more of those examples of how they actually tricked your church leaders back in the 1800s, before they had any framework of the modern world. Interesting fact. Today, the average person knows more than the average person when this country was founded in 1776. Did you know that? Yeah. We know about DNA, we know about computers, we know about smart cars, we know about satellites. They didn't know any of that. They had no framework. So the early church fathers, or not church fathers as in Polycarp and Ignatius, but the church leaders in the 1800s were totally duped. They were suckered by those people in power that were Satanists from the old world that said, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Hydrogen, because they knew what hydrogen was. You take water, you separate it through electrolysis. This burns one color, this burns another. This is oxygen, that's hydrogen. They understood. That's Adam, this is Eve. Not hard, people. Oh, that didn't come until later on. No, it's very ancient. They knew. They knew what hydrogen was at a high degree. And they knew, looking out at the stars and planets, how to describe it using them as well, using astronomy. They built towers and temples dedicated to hydrogen because they thought, or they were led to believe it was God, because when Lucifer started out as H3 tritium, it wanted to be worshipped as God. And God's like, hey, you ain't me. Kicked him down a notch. Kicked the blocks out from under him. Gave him an attitude adjustment. Lucifer didn't like that. Still called Lucifer. Now he's H2 deuterium. He took Adam and Eve, went from left to right. They started out lithium, became carbon, and then now through the power of the Spirit, we can become fluorine. And how that translates, it's very difficult to explain. But that's where they went. Okay? And Lucifer is an elemental. You can't get any more basic than hydrogen. Okay? Except for the iterations of hydrogen known as the isotopes. But Adam and Eve, we are made of things. We're complex organisms. Okay? So when I say they went from lithium to carbon to fluorine, it gets very difficult to explain. But we are not elementals. We are made of an elemental. And that is our base element. Our number 666 is carbon. Okay, that's not the evil number. The evil number is not 666. That's your birthright, kid. Whether you're man, woman, doesn't matter. Okay? Lucifer started out as 999, but then flipped, right? You ever heard the term, oh, he flipped on us? Yeah, now he's identifying with the 6, not the 6. He's the 3, posing as the 6. I told you, you could look at it as one of the 3, lithium, carbon, and fluorine, fell and became evil. But it really isn't that way. It's a percentage of the 3, a percentage of the 6, and a percentage of the 9. Because Lucifer still retains the blessings that God bestowed upon Lucifer. Okay, or I should say Satan. Still has the blessings that were bestowed upon Lucifer. That's why Satan can appear in his old form as an angel of light. People, wake up. This is not difficult. Okay, people make this so hard to understand that when God gives you something, it doesn't take it away. Okay, and that has played out in history many times. Okay, so I don't want to get on that rabbit hole with Satan and Lucifer, but this just gets into how we started, how Lucifer, the beginnings there, and why we're this complex thing now. Okay, we are this complex organism, and that's why I say we went from this base, I guess you could say we went from this very simple base to a very complex organism. Okay? But anyway, I don't want to, like I say, I'm bogging down here. In chapter 14, one of those verses says, people are going to narrowly look upon Satan in the pit when God finally conquers evil. In the book of Revelation, read it. They're going to go, that's who we were scared of? That's who shook the nations? Shame on us. So once you call out the devil for what it is, people go, yeah, that's kind of weird. Why would people would want to worship that? Or say that hydrogen is God. Okay? It's not. God exists outside the periodic order. But another thing to look at is the name Isaiah. Okay? If you look at Isaiah's name, remember in an earlier video where I said it's altar of incense and incensed altar. That's your heart. This is your Holy of Holies with your Ark of the Covenant. And this is, you could say that this is Hushi the Arkite. We talked about Hushi. And Ahithophel. I hate to fail. I hate to fail is a groin heart connection. And Hushi the Arkite is a mind heart connection. Okay, so you got these mysterious people in the Bible that Christian ministers like, oh, Deuteronomy 29, I can't explain it, man. Just have to be in faith, man. Because they only understand simple math. They only understand the salvation message. They don't understand how to read the Bible like Noah's Ark was built in Genesis 6:16. Chapter 6, verse 16. Lower, second, and third stories there, preacher. It's not just the salvation message. You can actually teach very scientific, complex things from the Bible. It's called the complex plane there, Reverend. You know, it's okay to do other things other than add, subtract. You can multiply, divide, and also do biblical algebra and biblical trigonometry. Yes, you can. So anyone who teaches you that, oh, this guy's talking quackery, right? Say, so you don't believe that the Bible was written on the complex plane. You say it's just salvation only. Nail them down, because they'll tell you. And you need to find the new church where the minister has his head outside of his rear end. But AI and IA, look at Isaiah's name. It literally says you have to add a letter, right? And I can't do that in the Bible itself and sell a Bible like with that change, because then I'd be in violation. But I can teach you to do things and say, look, just look at his name and add a letter. It's asking you a question. It's a rhetorical question. Is AIIAH? That's a simple question. Is AI hydrogen? Look at his name. Remember that the Hebrews took one of the first cities after Jericho. I think it was the first one. After Jericho's walls fell outward and they took Jericho, which is your groin. Okay, they had to take the next city. That's your heart. The altar of incense. Yeah, they were on their way up to the promised land, up here. Okay? Lucifer went from the promised land down into hell. Or it will someday. Right? We're going the other way, people. We're trying to get better. The city of AI and Isaiah are connected. Now, your Christian minister will tell you, oh, you can't prove any of that. Can you do complex equations? Do you know how to play chess on multiple levels? Yeah, it's there, people. Is AI and IA hydrogen? Question mark. It's a rhetorical question. Okay, well, we're going to move on. Note in that verse 1 through 24, the king of Babylon. What is that acronym? KOB. As in what? Jacob, that's your groin, if you're a male, okay? And Y-cob, if you're what? A female. It's either your Jacob or your Y-cob. And when he grew up, who did he become? Israel. Israel. Is it real? And then the other thing is, why is real? Right? You can spell it with an I or a Y. This is the altar of incense. This is your mind's eye. So you're up in this area now. Okay? And when guys grow up and they decide to get their life in order and have a baby with a woman, and a woman does the same thing, right? Y is real. Because now life is getting very real. You stop living in mom's basement, you got your life in order, and you're moving in a forward direction. All right, you're done playing video games. You're done with all the childish stuff. Time to grow up. Big chief, make baby. Big queen, make baby. Right? That's when Y becomes real. Or J becomes real. Okay? You can look at it like that too. So anyway, we're looking at the Cob, the king of Babylon. These things go by different names for different reasons. Okay? So Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 1 through 20, right? Note Ezekiel's name. Looks similar to, if you take the N and you spin it, just turn it 90 degrees, you get Enkiel. Okay? And in there, you will find the name Enki. Who's Enki? All right. There's Enki, Anu, and Enlil. And everyone's like, oh my God, who are these mysterious people? It's Adam and Eve and their children. It's the three pyramids. Hello. This ain't hard, people. Enki was a Sasquatch. He was a wild man. That's right. That's you before you come to Jesus. Look at the man, the Gadarene, the guy who ran around like crazy in the cemetery, cutting himself. Goth. Mr. Goth King. Mrs. Goth Queen. I gotta mess my hair up and look ugly. I gotta act crazy and get drunk and wake up in my own puke. Right? By the way, the Anunnaki, that's the name Anu, right? These super giants, right? Those are planets. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, okay? Those are references to the planets. And it can also mean a star like Sirius. one of the stars, I believe, in Sirius, or Betelgeuse, is massive. That's who these giants represent. That's who they were. Were they humans also? Yep. There were people on Earth that were oppressing people. Were they space aliens? Nope. No, they weren't. All, pardon my French, bullshit. As my first sergeant in Fort Stewart, Georgia would say, bullshit. Yeah, that's that Zacharian, whatever his name is, selling books. Okay, that's David Icke selling books. Okay? How do you sell books? You come up with some crazy thing, and all of a sudden you sell 1,000 books. Now you take a guy like, can't think of his name, Irishman. He wrote Future Science. Can't think of his name, I apologize. Maurice Cotterell. Maurice Cotterell, you read about Maurice, he refused to sell out. They're like, hey, you know a lot about the Mayan calendar. Can you lie and say the world's going to end in 2012? He said, nope, not going to do it. And they said, well, we won't publish your book. And he said, bye-bye, I'll go publish my own. When you buy Maurice's book, it's signed by Maurice. And he did it in the basement of his house in Ireland or the UK somewhere. My man. As Denzel would say, Maurice, you my man. Didn't sell out. Refused to tell the lie to sell the books. Okay? So anyway, moving on. How about this one? Ready? You got the Prince of Tyrus, and then later on, the King of Tyrus. You think that POT, Prince of Tyrus, means something? I do. What about the KOT? I do. K is always king. It's always the northern crisscross shafts of the once great pyramid. Whenever you see a K, right, it's always north. It's always Neptune. It's always that end of the solar system, right? Queen goes the other way. King goes this way. Tense of Kedar, tense of Cedar. Southern shafts, northern shafts. All right, so when you see Prince of Tyrus, if fluorine is the king, or helium is the king in the Holy of Holies, where would the prince be located? So I'm here and I'm king. Gee, where would my son be? How about right here? Guys, this is really not that hard. You go, yeah, that would make sense, right? He's succession, gonna go from here to here, right? So you say, well, wait a minute. This is the fall of, these people, these characters are describing the fall. That's right. They are. So the guy went from, you know the old saying, it's better to rule in hell than serve in heaven? Lucifer followed that philosophy. So while he was up here, he was heading this way. So now what do we call the once great pyramid? Oh, we call it the Great Pyramid. That's right. The king, man. Alexander the Great. He was saying, I am that building. Herod the Great. Yeah, they were identifying with Satan. The great Satan. Khufu, which if you rearrange, it's F-U to God. Right? It's F-U to the Khafre, which is the freak who cures men, Mercury. Believe it or not. When you look at it in phonetics. So, people are going to tell you, oh, those scriptures, Ezekiel and Isaiah, those aren't references to Satan. I'm going to tell you who those people are. You ready? They're people who are not formally schooled in scripture. Because if you actually attend a college like I have, they will tell you it's a no-brainer, guy. There's reading the prophets in the Old Testament. Now, I'll say definitely 100% the major prophets. Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah. You have to think in the past, the present, and the future. The book of Revelation is also written this way. If you read in the beginning of Revelation, it says the things which were, the things which are, and the things which are to come. Past, present, future. 3, 6, 9. Okay? This ain't hard, people. So when people tell you, you can't make those assumptions, yes, you can. Because the Word of God is designed like Noah's Ark in Genesis 6:16. First row, petable animals, the sheep, the llamas. Yeah, those are on the top row. That's the salvation message, how to get to God. John 3:16, Romans Road. Salvation is sanctification, justification, regeneration. You got to have a triangle or you're not saved. It's not hard. Later on, you get the gifts of the Spirit. Okay? I like this movie, Val Kilmer, one of his best movies, with Graham Greene. God bless both of those guys. I hope they're doing well. But Graham Greene especially. But Val has a vision, and he's only a percentage of his family, his mother's side, he had Native American. So I don't think he was half. He was like quarter or less than half, whatever. So he shows up as an FBI agent investigating murders on a Native American reservation. Graham Greene is the head of the police, and he interfaces with Graham Greene. Well, he talks to Graham Greene, and Graham Greene says, what you had was what's called a vision. And he saw that all the chiefs on their horses and their headdresses and their spears, and they were surrounding him. And Graham Greene walked away and was furious. And Val Kilmer didn't understand. And Graham Greene spins around at some point and says, all my life, I've gone through all the ceremonies. I've done all the right things, and I've never had a vision. And you come along, and you're not even a full-blood. They made fun of him because they said he was FBI, full-blooded Indian. They were saying, we're the real FBI. You're not, because we're full-blood. Pretty funny. But he says, you ain't even, full blood. And they're appearing to you, that the elders are appearing to you that this life is not fair. And there's a lot of truth to that. So when people come up to you and they say, oh, this guy's Snap Publishing, he's wrong. Start questioning them. Do they have a degree? No? Then don't listen to them. If they have a degree, was it in a school of free thought, or were they not proselytized, but was it parochial, and they were funneled in through this specific doorway, and they weren't allowed any critical thinking? Yeah, that I wouldn't trust their degree. Those aren't colleges, people. Those are mind prisons. They're putting a gilded cage around your mind. And that's why I got away from the church. My church was very good, and they taught the whole Bible as they saw the light. But if you started asking some real sticky questions, they set you straight real quick. And that's when I realized, this is starting to get like, I came from the RCC. I grew up, my mother was Roman Catholic. Okay? I got out of there because at that time, they didn't read the Bible at all. They actually forbade it. They did not want you questioning them. They just wanted you to shut up and do what you were told. Okay? So, when I got too big for my britches over at the Protestants, I began to realize, this is a cycle. It keeps happening. Yes. And I had to become my own man. I tried Saul's armor. Like King David went out to fight Goliath. He had to take off. Saul was the tallest man in Israel. It didn't fit David. It was too loose. And he felt like a clown. And he's like, I just know the sling and the stone. I'm just going to go with that. So anyway, a lot of the people I'm telling you about are jealous. They've never had an original thought in their life. If these Christian ministers come to you, or these church members, or people who've left the church, and they're pointing at me, telling you, hey, that guy's talking all kinds of crazy. Okay? Many times you're going to find out they're like Graham Greene's character in that movie. They're very upset that they're not the ones that figured this out. They have steam coming out of their ears. They're so mad. Because it's right there in front of you. You see what shape your nose is? It's a pyramid. It's actually a tetrahedron, right? Your nose is a tetrahedron. Your nose represents the pyramid that used to have a... That's where the term heaven comes from. You're heaving. right? To heave, part of breathing. That pyramid had a big steam geyser under it, and people saw the effects of it. I told you about why the Muslims flush their sinus. Sam Shamoun had a podcast, and he was teasing this guy for being a Muslim, flushing his nose, and saying, oh, that's because the prophet tells us to do it. Yes, but why? Because Satan's in our nose. And Sam thought that was ridiculous. And I'm like, Sam, I love you. You're way smarter than me, Sam. But you got that one wrong. They're actually practicing something that, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense. And it's very medicinal, clearing your sinuses. I know some of the healthiest people I know use a neti pot every day. They flush all the crap from the day before out of their nose. Don't want to go down that road. So anyway, hydrogen, you know, because I tell you this over and over, H1, the Great Pyramid, Khufu, once great, is protium, which is molecular hydrogen known as Molech. It's Satan. All right? There's three main types of love. There's lust, eros, erotic lust, right? And that's a good description. H1 protium. Now you get into deuterium, H2. That's like filial love, a love for your wife, right? You can put it as it starts out as a friendship, okay? That's filial love. H2, deuterium, Book of Deuteronomy. And then you get to the third one, which is the most important. If you read the love chapter in the Bible, what's that? 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the whole chapter. I used to have it memorized. To graduate college, we had to memorize it. But in that, Paul states over and over how important charity is, and that ties in with agape love. Okay? Now, guys, I've said this in the past. You Satanists take everything in the Bible. Out there is a Bible called the Satanist Bible. They take all the good, wonderful things in salvation, the salvation message, and all the science of the Bible, and they distort it. They flip it, okay? And they twist it. Now look at the word agape. It's agape. That is a very bad term these days, right? Yeah, it is. Because like your DNA, you have the organic side and the inorganic side. This is the human. This is the non-human inorganic rock. Minerals. These are what they call soft elements, like water-soluble versions of this. And they connect with those rungs of the ladder, ATGC. That's Alexander the Great was a conqueror. Sometimes you're a son. This is the satanic side of your DNA, people. It's this model, this example, is universal in the atom, your cells in your body, the solar system, the galaxy. You can see this pattern everywhere if you just look. There's always this sick, twisted, perverted side of things. So you look at that word, which means the pouring out of love towards, you're in a wonderful relationship, you have a wonderful relationship with God, your children, your nation, all good things. And these perverts have turned that around. So now instead of this being your head, it's your rear end. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that. But that's where that term comes from, if you're wondering. If you read Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verses 6 through 7, you'll learn a very important thing about love. Read the author in that verse is Satan. The person telling you that it's two women, and the one is jealous. It's Leah and Rachel. This is the jealousy of, it flips, by the way. Sometime Leah was down here and Rachel was up here, and it flip-flopped. And the Bible doesn't get very specific about who's doing the talking. It's either Rachel or Leah, but it's when one of them was in the wrong frame of mind. They were jealous of the other. I told you about the two strange types of light found in the Bible. Reuben, rubidium, Rahab the harlot, Ruth, all mean red. 656.3, rose red, blood red. Notice one is blood and the other is rose. There's that pattern again. Then you got green, blue-green, shouldn't belong over here, but there it is. It's a form of red light, but it's in the ultraviolet side of things where UV is supposed to be. There's this form of red light. But is it red? No, it's blue and green. That's how our life on this planet works. That is jealousy. Okay? Now, I've told you in the past there's jealousy with a J and zealous with a Z. There's that pattern again. Jealousy, green eye, oh, I gotta commit murder because I don't have something this girl has. By the way, if you read the love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, in there it says, seeketh not her own. Specifically says her. The Bible doesn't do that too often. But that one should hit home. Right? Now, I'm not saying guys aren't that way. But that's like a 80-20, 70-30 thing. Because women are the nest builders, people. They provide the little place to put the eggs. They're going, gimme, 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 I, me. It's predominantly a girl thing. Not picking on all girls, because some women are very good about sharing, and they understand you got to give back to the community. And I'm not saying there's guys that aren't that way. But anyway, if you read Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 6 through 7, this gets into how your love, Adolf Hitler loved German people. He loved the Aryan race, the white people with the blue eyes. But who did he hate? Blamed everything on the Jews. You see how he loved one thing, but he hated that other thing. They're this close together, people. It's that close. That's how close you are from being right with God and wrong with God. It's less than that. I can't even describe how close together it is. There's nothing around me right now that can explain how close you always are to falling out of God's good graces. You got to walk a fine line in life because your heart, David said in one of the Psalms, I believe it was David, might have been Solomon. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life. I-O-L. Rearrange it. It's oil. Leonard Euler. Leonard means lion. The lion heart oils your body. That's your circulatory system, lymphatic system. Keeps you well oiled. The issues of life come from here. When you get angered, you get injection of testosterone, men and women. It causes you to stop thinking with this, and you start getting a lower function knee-jerk reaction. You have to get that under control because you've just left the human cortex and you skip past monkey and you're right into reptile. That's when you're capable of murder. And people say, "Oh, I'm saved and filled with the Spirit." Yeah, you're there too, pal. You can easily flip. I'm pretty much going to leave it right there. I might have a little note here. In verse 12, not sure if it's Ezekiel or Isaiah, one of them, it talks about, it calls Lucifer the son of the morning. This is the one last thing I want to talk about. If you read Revelation, Revelation chapter 2, Revelation 2 and 28. I will give him the morning star. This is one of those scriptures that the Satanists have talked to your church leaders about and said, there it is right there. Jesus is the devil. That's it. Jesus is saying right there in Revelation, I'll give you the morning star. What does that mean? And you would talk to Christian ministers and they're like, brother, Deuteronomy 29:29. Guy, all that scripture is saying is you now know H1, H2, H3. Protium, deuterium, tritium. You've looked narrowly in the pit. I've given you the graphic of King Solomon's temple. It says when he built one of the buildings, I can't remember if it was his house or the temple. One had narrow windows and another had narrow rests. That narrow is talking about the temple of Solomon has hydrogen. Okay? And by the way, it's in rows of 3. I believe, if you find that, pardon me for not having that scripture ready. But anyway, giving you the morning star. Right? Now, people will tell you the morning star is Venus in the morning and Venus in the evening were thought to be 2 separate planets. They called one Hesperus and the other Phosphorus. Think of the name, people. He's for us. And the foe is for us. Use the phonetic. He is for us. If God be for us, who can be against us? Hesperus. That's helium. Helios. Phosphorus is the opposite. The foe. The enemy. I will give him the morning star. Gee, what is this mysterious saying? Wow, that's so difficult, man. No. God's word unpacks the truth. Makes it very simple to understand. Reads Job, at the end of Job, God says, I will not conceal Leviathan's parts, power, or comely portion. There's that 3 again. Reverend, who's Leviathan? Oh, Deuteronomy 29:29, brother. Why would God use lizard reptilian imagery to hold up his holy ark? Oh, Deuteronomy 29, brother. 29:29. No. It's talking about hydrogen. Started out good. Turned bad. I'm giving this to you. I will give him what? The morning star. The understanding of who Satan is. Guys, this is not hard. Don't let them people out there, these guys, tell you what? Oh, Jesus and the devil are cleverly disguised. One equals the other. Wrong. Guys, wake up. This is how, in the 1800s, they pulled the wool over church leaders' eyes. And they took the front office And they started that Scopes Monkey BS trial, that mock trial, that if we retried it today with people like me testifying, they would lose. Hands down. And the church would be back in teaching proper, not this wackadoo religious crap, actual biblical scientific principles that are aligned with what physicists are saying and mathematicians and you name it. They would all agree. They'd say, yeah, this system actually, it meshes quite well with the system that we have in place. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So anyway, we're going to leave it there. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and check us out in the links in the description below. Peace out.